Hey, Gloucester Township. I'm Joe Allen here with Keith Gibbons. This is the GT Observer podcast.
How's it going? You really caught that one. You almost last second jumped right
Last
in.
second, I was ready.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if the intro was going to kick into the cameras like it didn't do last time, but it did. We had everything set up, and
Here we are talking about April 13th?
14th,
14th.
April 14th, council meeting recap. It's been man, I think it's been like 3 weeks since we've been on.
Yeah, because I do it on the second and fourth, because of the way months work and
yeah,
stuff.
and we kind of
like a
missed
break there somehow.
So I think we missed a week here. A lot has happened since we missed a week. A lot of online chatter.
Oh yeah,
Everyone in Gloucester Township is a campaign strategist.
Oh man,
They're
so
all
annoying.
they're all. We got a lot of people with.
The thing that drives me nuts is like people will say, there's someone online saying that I won't answer a question. What if I had not answered? I answered direct
I
questions
saw that
you asked me, and then somebody else asks like a kind of rhetorical a question that I can't know the answer to. Is someone else going to do something? I don't know. Ask them. How do I know what this is?
Yeah, they're asking you questions about stuff that you would know if you were in power.
Right. I'm like I don't know why you guys don't hold the current mayor who's spending your tax dollars
to
the
said.
Same level of account that you're holding me, who's just trying to jump in and do something about it.
That's what I said. I see these questions, and I have seen these questions for year after year and election after election, to where like somebody comes up and says, "Hey, I'd like to do something a little bit different than what we're doing right now," and then they are blasted with questions, like sometimes impossible to answer questions. And it's like, why do we have such high standards for the person that says, "I'd like to do something different," and then have no standards for the mayor that runs from any kind of questioning whatsoever?
Joe, last year they were trying to sell to the mayor's company. No one could get an answer out of council or the mayor. We had to go down to Camden to go to another meeting that he was at. That people asked him questions there, and he still didn't answer there. But that's okay. I guess because he's part of a certain political party or something. It's like, well, you got to be kidding me.
It's
like,
crazy.
What does that have to do with anything?
And and I also love that there are like these loyalists that I haven't seen in like at least 2 years that are all of a sudden they're back on Facebook, and they're like, I love GT. I love everything about GT. We have parks, and they're
pristine.
Yeah, they take our trash. Like, put my trash on the curb. Somebody comes and picks it up.
Oh,
you believe that? Like,
I made a comment. I wrote a blog post article about the debt that we're in. Right, that it was. A lot of people were surprised by how much debt we're in. So the article I wrote was basically, we don't default on our payments of our debt service payments, but in a way we do default on it by not taking care of things that we've already purchased. You know what I mean? So we're defaulting on the residents. And the one example that I used, I don't know why this one irks me, but it just irks me. We have a bike share program that doesn't have bikes for years. I mean, how much is a bicycle to put back in the bike share program? It's not a lot of money, but yet we're going to go build a new pickleball court. That pickleball, are we going to take care of that? I don't know. Are we going to go build something else? Whatever the new shiny thing is, we're letting go on things that we've already committed to. Like that purchase and that borrowing that money is a commitment to the community that you're going to take care of.
I feel like we jumped on the bike thing. I feel like we jumped on the bike thing when it was trendy to jump on the bike thing.
Well, yeah, it's because there's a grant involved. So okay, you can get. I'm just making these numbers up. Maybe get $300,000 if you spend $200,000 on this. And you're like, oh great, we got $300,000 free dollars. But you had to spend $200, and then the pay-to-play vendor gets paid for consulting and finding the.
Yeah.
It's a whole big thing, but it's like we haven't had bikes in that thing at least 2 years.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And then before that, I think there was one bicycle in there for like a year. So it's like but that's just an example that I used, and because I made that example, they're like, "What's your solution?" I'm like, I was literally just pointing out, like, can we all admit that there's a problem? Like, that's the first step of any recovery, right?
Yeah,
like somebody that's I don't know, addicted to some kind of a substance. Admitting that they have the problem is the first step. then after that, then we can get to the next steps. We haven't even addressed that we have a problem yet, and that's basically the starting point of where I was trying to start with that whole thing. And it's just like I got ripped apart for not having the solution to it. I'm like, okay.
No, you're also not on the inside too. So that's the thing with you and everybody else that runs before you is they're not on the inside. They don't have all of the information to go on. But our problem is like we never have discussions about any of this stuff. No. Because it's shut down and it says...
We have an entire podcast to show you guys that we get gaslit when we ask questions about it. And then they'll people online also will say the dialogue thing. Well, look what you guys did to him. Like, go back a year and look at the dialogue that passed. Okay, I challenge you to go back and look at that and look and see. Was it the residents that were actually getting out of hand, or was it questions that were asked that council then got out of hand or reacted to the questions in defense or got, you know what I mean? There was much more, I feel like, from one side that did not want the questions to be asked than it was people up there getting ignorant with them. If you're considering that the question that they asked that they didn't want to answer was the ignorant part, then that's gaslighting, that saying that we're asking the wrong question. No, we're asking questions of our government. We're not getting answers back. Yeah. They're getting frustrated with us asking those questions because it's making them look bad. We don't make them look bad. They make themselves look bad. You know what I mean? We might ask a question that makes them look bad, but their actions are not what we did. So, when we're asking a question, or you want to say that, this group of friends goes there and, asks these, we're asking questions about the action. So, you can have your opinion. That's totally fine.
No, I mean, look, the back and forth gets kind of nasty from time to time. But at some point, after, so many years, more years than I can remember, after
never getting an answer.
You got to do something, right? Yeah. There's got to be something has to change to make it different. So it's that's
all right. That was a tangent.
That's where we are. So
let's get into the meeting.
Kicking off some incredibly positive news here.
Yeah,
I love this. Penco Tech. So Jake's Playground. We talked about Jake's Playground. Jake's Playground is it's an accessible playground for children and young adults with special needs that maybe can't play in current playgrounds, whether it's physical or like emotional disabilities.
There's quiet areas. There's different things for all different.
So Jake's Playground was basically what the scenario was. We have to put up a certain amount of money, and then the organization.
I think it's the state match.
I think it's the state that puts up. I think we had to put 20%. They put up 80%. So,
but Penco Tech decided they were going to donate $20,000 to that cause.
Yeah, so we were basically awesome. The township was kind of on the hook for just under $200,000 for this grant to go through. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of, I think everybody kind of agreed, it's kind of a no-brainer, right? You're getting all this money to do this thing and it's for a great cause. But we're 200. We got to raise a couple $100,000. So Penco Tech stepped up and they put up $20,000.
Yeah,
which is, let's play the clip.
Recently, council adopted.
It starts off
to move
bad.
forward in establishing a playground called Jake's Law Playground over at the Valley Brook Complex. This playground is for special needs students, special need individuals, where it's an all-inclusive playground. And when this was introduced, there were some funding challenges. We were going out for a loan, and some business and community leaders had stepped up and had said they wanted to contribute to it. So our friends from Penco Tech, if you could please join us, two representatives, have decided to join us today, and they have a gift that they want to donate towards this playground. Again, this is adjacent to the Valley Brook Sports Complex, where Field of Dreams plays. That's for our special needs adults and students that play there. So I'll hand it over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you guys for having us today. My name is Jason Obiak. I'm the Vice President of Penco Tech. This is my colleague, Chris Ryan. He's our COO. We've had a campus in Blackwood just around the way for decades now, and we were just looking for a good way to give back to the community. And when this opportunity was presented to us, we thought it was quite a good one. So we're happy to give back and happy to be here. Thank you guys for having us.
Do you want to disclose the amount? The Chief Operating Officer will.
So it is.
The CFO will. There you go.
It is a check to the township for $20,000.
Love this.
Yeah.
I love it. It's something that we've talked about this a lot here. Going back to like Field of Dreams and stuff like that, where people suggested, hey, we've got a lot of money here that we need to raise. Why don't we have sponsors do it? I mean, we've got businesses in town that would probably love to get their names out, their billboards up, whatever.
Yeah.
Love to see this. This is kind of, I mean, this has been something.
I don't think that they were doing that for like a sponsorship thing. I think they were doing it just to help support.
No, they're just doing it. They're just doing it to help the community.
They're not looking to get their name or anything like that. I don't think that was the intent.
But when it comes to like sports fields, like that's a perfect opportunity.
Right. I understand. You're using it as
yeah.
an example, not like that's what they were doing.
But seeing businesses step up to where like it's not on the taxpayers now. I love this. I want to say I'd love to see more of this. I would suggest that if anybody I know wins the next election, that'd be a thing that we push forward. So, yeah, I love it.
All right. So then we moved into the first public portrait, which was for agenda items only, and there were no speakers.
None. Yeah, I think that's been a first in a while. I think.
Yeah, it was. Usually there's
at least something on the agenda people want to talk about. Yeah.
Well,
but
we went into another thing that I don't know where this originated from, but I would have to assume that from some of the context clues that it had to do with like the Mr. Jarvis Road. Is that what everybody calls him? The pool party.
That's the first guy I think of every time.
Right. Yeah. Anytime there's a block party, pool party, like that's I think the go-to thing. So let's see this clip.
Ordinance 0-25-11. So ordinance amending Chapter 67 of the Code of the Township of Gloucester entitled Peace and Good Order to establish Article 3 entitled Block Party Applications. What this does, it amends the Chapter 67 Peace and Good Order to define what a block party in the process for block party applications. It defines what a block is, what a party is, the authorization to issue a permit, the parameters as far as having that event, as far as controlling event parking, sound amplification, blocking access to the street, where the application is made, and the fee of that, the cleanup after block parties, and the limit on the number of permits for block parties in a given year. This is a first reading. A hearing will be held at its second reading.
So I didn't read it. Did you read the like all the wording of the ordinance there?
Yeah, it's just it goes into just some rules, which I thought were kind of common sense rules on like doing block parties.
Yeah, but common sense and having it in writing that you can point to are, I guess, two different things. Like, even though something might be common sense, if it's not a written down law or ordinance, you know what I mean, then
I like
you can't point to it to say this is what we need to enforce. But we went over this in the past before where it's like, hey, it's already illegal to park your car on some random person's front lawn or to throw your trash on the street or to block off a road. Like, all these things are already illegal. What do we need to do? Additional ordinances.
I like the set of rules that you can say, this is what you can't do. This is what you can do. Perfectly fine. So that when people put a block party together and the police show up and they say, I didn't know that was. It's right here.
Yeah,
it's right here. This is. I'm just thinking like, man, I love the thought of block parties. I love the thought of. I remember my friends down in Pine Hill in their neighborhood used to do block parties. At least they did once a year.
Yeah.
And that was the coolest thing. All the neighbors getting together. Like, I live on a street with 21 houses. Nobody talks to anybody on the street. I would love to. I tried organizing several years. Tried organizing like block yard sales where we did the whole thing. I advertised. It paid for advertising. I got like 5 houses.
Yeah. Well, I think that they mentioned that this excludes that. Yard sale
they excludes that, but just trying to get everybody together, I thought it was a cool thing because we're such a small little neighborhood where I'm at. I think it'd be a cool thing to get everybody together, but I'm like, there's no way anybody's doing a block party here. I love the idea, but I also think too, if you have like, I don't know, think you got like maybe 5-6 houses in your neighborhood, and they like to party a lot, and they kind of block the street off like once a month for their block parties. Gets a little bit excessive, so I could see, we need some rules for that.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know all the details of what they know. The police know more how often they get called to places than you.
People might want to do a like meet the candidates kind of thing on the block. We had a couple of those around here.
Yeah.
They're gonna want to restrict some of those. Maybe I'm get a permit for one of those. So that was my conspiracy theorist guess on that part.
I was wondering about the number, like when they said the number of them. Is it the number in the overall township, or is it the number that each person is allowed to apply for?
Is it the number per street?
There's been 4 already this year. We're not having any more. And you're like, one guy actually is the one who out and got all these, and he's holding them all over town.
I thought it was like per street.
It could be. I don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I didn't read it, so I can't really speak to it. Just
if you got a shuttle back to your house more than once a year, it's too much.
Yeah, right.
So, Ordinance 2512 was I did a bunch. Actually, 12, 13, and 14 were introduced. There'll be public hearings on those, but it's basically if you want to know the streets that are involved, there's new parking restrictions, new stop signs, and new one-way streets. Nobody commented on it. There'll be public hearing, I guess, next meeting for all of those. So check out the council agenda, and if your streets are on there and you're concerned about it, show up at the next meeting, talk about it.
Yep.
That was it. Consent agenda was up next. Consent agenda is a bunch of stuff that is all just kind of grouped together, and if everybody agrees on it, they go through the consent agenda.
One fell swoop.
And they say everybody says yes. But we did have a on the consent agenda. We had one thing that was not approved on, which is kind of unusual.
Next is our consent agenda.
Oh my!
Any items that any council member would like to remove, please speak up. Hearing none, entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
I'll make that motion.
There a second on the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Mignon?
Yes.
Mrs. Albert Troxel?
Yes.
Mrs. Grace Love?
Yes.
Mr. Nash?
A no on 110, yes on the remainder.
Mrs. Walters?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters?
Yes.
Mr. Mercado?
Yes.
Ooh.
I love how anytime anybody says no, there's just a pause, and they're going,
Yeah.
they're just
Somebody's getting their wrist slapped on this one.
So that item that we flashed up on the screen briefly was was thrown on the consent agenda, and it was for over $1 million in lighting for fields.
It was for fields that have never been discussed. There has been lighting discussed recently. There was a whole little hubbub or whatever you want to call it that went on around.
Yeah, Valley Brook Soccer.
Right. Well, this was for Blackwood Kiwanis Little League. Never discussed with the public. And it's just another example of how they just think that they can spend our money without having to ever discuss it in public. Like, where does whoever put that on the agenda get off and saying that goes on there? So good for Mr. Nash for picking up, and I don't know what his reasoning for saying no is. But I'm just guessing. I would have said no, this has never been discussed. This has never been on the agenda. I don't think we missed it, Joe. We go through every single meeting. We do a podcast about this every single time.
Don't remember.
Never been discussed.
I don't remember Kiwanis being on there for lighting. Maybe Jim just likes playing in the dark. I don't know. Maybe he's not as a budget guy, but he's just like I like dark baseball.
And the part about it is it's not that you don't want the lights for the field. It's that you didn't even allow the public to discuss it.
Yeah.
It's never been brought up. Like, let's talk about it.
There's not a whole lot of opposition in this town to giving kids lights for their fields. But when you just throw it on an agenda without discussing it ever, and then at the end...
It's our money.
At the end, when you say, where did this money come from? And your business administrator says, we had leftover money in the budget. Okay. No, you didn't, because you borrowed.
Yeah, well, just the term leftover additional money. You don't have any money, so you don't have extra. You can't have extra money. You take it from people.
$70 million in debt. You don't have extra money. If you have a surplus, you have extra money. This is not extra money. You borrowed too much.
Right.
This is the Sam Sweet thing that he's been talking about for years. Like, you over budgeted, you over borrowed.
Yeah.
Man.
All right.
I mentioned Sam. Now he's going to want to come on the podcast.
Well, we're going to move on to clip 4. Sorry.
Next to Sam's big item of the year.
Resolution 122, resolution approving introduction and providing notice for the public hearing and public inspection of the 2025 municipal budget.
Mr. Cars, would you like to add any comments to that before we?
Yeah, sure. So this is the 2025 calendar year budget. Total appropriations, $83,444,804.78. Amount to be raised by taxation, $60,908,670.30. That results in a local tax rate of 1.3194. Compared to the prior year, that is a zero increase.
Election year
So it's a zero
budgeting.
increase on the budget.
It is a zero increase
That's being introduced.
on the rate, on the tax rate.
Yep. Oh, look at that. Yep. Election year.
There it is. We're right at that last part where we
We go
just go
flat. It's
Yep,
flat.
we go flat.
Yep.
It's an election year. We're not trying to make anybody mad, so they go and vote with their wallets. So
exactly. Don't vote that way. They had some items in there that somebody else was looking into to see how they did the flat budgeting, and it was some interesting stuff. But it came out to like around an $11 million difference. That we're like, well, that's interesting because back when the sewer sale was going on, remember they were promising about $10 million to sports, fields and all that. So I'm like, I wonder if that was part of that. Could be just a coincidence they're the same numbers, but it was interesting. I forget exactly what it was called, but it was something with like a tax collection, number where it was like, I forget the number again. It was like $7 million, where it's typically been like less than $1 million. Like, how did they get that much of an increase in this number? Like, it's just playing games, right? It's I don't know. In math and budgeting, it's funny. You can make stuff look the way you want it to look.
There's so much magic that just needs to be uncovered. It's crazy. Next up is E-Gov. E-Gov is where if you can't make a meeting or
I'll explain it to you.
Or if you, go ahead.
Before I go into that, just to explain, we have E-Gov. That was created to provide greater opportunities for people that could not attend council meetings to submit an email to council and have a question answered. So the intent of it was to provide for greater transparency of local government. When this was introduced, it is rare. It's not done in other municipalities. It's not commonplace in other municipalities. So over the last few years, we fine-tuned it that it provides the administration some time to respond to some of the questions that are asked. So recently, there have been some questions that have been sent, E-Gov questions, that were submitted from individuals that appear not to be who they claim to be. We've had some fictitious names, addresses, and emails that have been attached to these E-Gov emails. So this effort to make government more transparent, unfortunately, is being abused. So to date, E-Gov was received, and the sender of that email did not provide an address, and they asked for that address not to be revealed. And the email address that they provided was an email address of a previous E-Gov resident, and the phone number that they provided was the phone number that if you wanted to call in a pothole or the light was out or your trash was not picked out as their contact number. If this individual would like me to respond to their question, they can reach out to me directly. Transparency is asked of government, and I ask that of individuals that submit this. So if that individual wants a response to their E-Gov, they can contact me directly.
Can I comment on this here?
Oh, yeah.
Before you so
you need a disclaimer or anything?
No. Well,
okay.
Sure, why not? This might be the part where the voices it doesn't work during that, but I don't know. Let me wait for that thing to go away. All right, so the right to know law, does that say in there anywhere that you have to explain who you are or say what you are? Like, could you go into the clerk's office or send an email from an email address that you have no idea, like, no one has any idea. It says anonymous@citizen.com or whatever. Like, is there anything that says that you have to say who you are? No, right? But so
right.
when we call our council president a tyrant, the council president a tyrant, these are the things that that you say, like, okay, you're making this roll up, so thank you for allowing a way for people who aren't able to make a meeting to have it in there. Don't break your arm patting yourself on the back over there, because it might not be commonplace to do that exact thing or call it an E-Gov thing, But every other town out there, not every other town, a lot of other towns out there have another way for people to attend a meeting, whether it's through a Zoom, access or some other way to attend the meeting. You're not super transparent because you have that, and there's no law that says that we have to give it. There's actually the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution gives that right that you don't have to be, you don't have to give up your information as a free citizen asking questions of your government or anything like that. You have the right to be secure in your papers and your effects, right?
Yeah, it bothers me that if you have a concern and you want to remain anonymous. That
you're not allowed.
That you can't just make a name up, give it whatever address. Look, if you're sending in an E-Gov, and in the past we've had E-Govs come in and they're long speeches, and they've read them, and
I appreciate that the E-Gov exists, right? And I think that's what you're saying too.
I do.
I appreciate it exists.
When people are sending in long speeches and stuff like that, and council president was reading them, I thought if there were, and everybody that did that, they said who they were, but they had something they wanted to say. But I did think that if we went anonymous with that, then anybody could say, I'm going to submit this, you need to read it, and then there's a line, right? There's a line that like he has to read what anybody says.
Yeah.
But look, if it's a legitimate question from a person who you're like, I don't know if this person actually exists, but it's a legitimate question.
What are they doing though with that phone number, or what are they doing with the name? Like, what do you need that for? It's like if you put that much time and effort into looking into people, there was somebody I recall. I don't know. It was a few weeks ago that I think that his complaint was that they put an address that doesn't exist. How do you know that? Did you look it up to know that it didn't exist? Like how? You don't just know every single address.
Is there like a bad guy list now that like you've asked too many questions?
If you put as much time into looking in to see who asked this question that you don't like, as it would be just to answer the question, I think we would be a lot happier. Instead, you put more investigation into finding out who wrote something than it is to answer, to answer a question.
Answer the question.
Like, I'll get back to you on that.
It makes me wonder.
How much is the bridge? Do we have an answer yet on the bridge? Do we have that? Have anyone looked into that?
Well, it makes me wonder, if I send in too many E-Govs now, do I have to look out my window and watch
it's ridiculous.
One of the GT cars just kind of riding by slowly, just making sure that I've what is that, code enforcement?
Yeah.
I send too many E-Govs in now, and code enforcement's now slowly driving by, just looking, seeing if I got any campers or boats out front, which we'll talk about later. But, just my trash cans in my driveway or something like that, because I've asked too many E-Gov questions. Is that what happens? Do we look up these people's addresses now? I don't know. Just asking.
All right. So, Dena Hendry asked a question on E-Gov. We'll play that clip.
Dena Hendry, 89 Lamppost Lane. Good morning. The February 13th, 25 vendor activity report lists multiple bills for Stella Contracting that appear to be for the same job. Were those payments for the entirely separate and unrelated projects, or were they part of the same job? If they are related, wouldn't splitting them to stay under the bid threshold violate New Jersey Local Public Contracts Law, NJSA 4811-1? Who is responsible for ensuring compliance with public bidding laws? The business administrator, the CFO, or council? Does council review bill lists with this in mind before approving them? If bid splitting did occur, what steps will council take to investigate and correct it? With the 2025 budget scheduled for adoption on May 19th, what changes will council make to ensure compliance with the law going forward? Our business administrator, Mr. Carters, is a qualified purchasing agent. He makes the determination to put certain services and acquisitions out for quotes or bids. Those quotes are obtained for purchases between $6,600 and $44,000. The bids are obtained for purchases in excess of $44,000 unless there's a state contract or it's an approved cooperative purchasing system that's acceptable to utilize. So in the case of the brush, so this is the stuff that we put out on our curbs and it magically goes away and it's picked up. by Public Works.
That's the magic
Mr.
part.
Karras has
It's the
determined
magic,
that the
yeah.
brush disposal is not required to be bid. This determination is based on the fact that the brush pile size changes on a daily basis. The township collects large amounts of brush. They add to that pile each working day. Another factor not utilizing a bidding process is the vast variation in the composition of the pile. Unlike other municipalities, we accept stumps, roots, tree trunks, huge branches, and smaller brush. So this adds to the complexity when a contractor comes out to bid on that particular pile. This past April 4th, we had an early morning storm. For those who live in the Broadmoor section off Summerdale Road, there were severe storms that destroyed trees and property throughout that section and throughout the town, in particular Summerdale Road. That brush was collected, and it significantly increased the size of the brush pile. So it's for this reason that the business administrator, Mr. Karras, has determined that it's in the best interest to have the best pricing for brush removal and disposal by sectioning isolated areas of that brush pile and obtaining multiple on-site quotes for removal and disposal of each section. In regards to Ms. Hendry's question regarding the public bidding laws, if we have an audit that's taking place each year, we have auditors that are not going to lose their license if something was going awry. So that process, Mr. Karras has utilized, and we have not been cited for that. In addition to that, council does take a look at the bill list that's provided at our first meeting. All council members have any questions, they can always contact the business administrator or the CFO or me directly.
So,
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either.
I don't. So
it was a bunch of baloney, really.
Different piles need different vendors,
but they don't have other vendors. Like, what are the quotes? The only quote. So after this all came up, because they were trying to buy another
three
million
different quotes going to the same company.
Right. It was no. There was two companies
Okay.
for two different jobs. One was to grind it up or whatever they call it, and then the other one was to haul it away. But there wasn't multiple. He's claiming like all these people came in and there was like some sort of a bidding process. There's a
stump specialty guy, and then there's like a leaf specialty guy.
The pile changes each day. Doesn't the grass grow a little bit higher each day? Like you're still required to go get. I don't know. It's just, something's wrong.
Most of these companies handle all of this stuff.
That explanation leads me to believe that there's something else to that. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, we won't. And
we'll never know the answer.
Well, we might next year.
Yeah,
we might next year.
But yeah, so because he's a qualified purchasing agent, and then
qualified,
what is it called? The auditor company wouldn't lose their license over it. So that might be an interesting question.
How much does the auditing company know about mulch piles?
Well, I'm sure they know more than the average bear.
I doubt it.
Well, about bidding process, they know.
About the bidding process, but
their whole job is to audit.
You telling me they can't be tricked into believing?
Oh yeah. That's what I'm saying. What's the answer?
What do the auditors know about piles?
If you ask the auditor and they say, "Yeah, we did ask them that," and what was the answer back? They might have a completely different answer than what we gave.
The auditor's like, they confused me enough to say that they're fine.
Right.
Yeah.
He said it changes every day. And I don't know, maybe that is the qualifying thing, is that it changes every day. I don't know that is, but the other interesting thing, though, about that topic, and I just sent in a follow-up Oprah request about it because I was looking back through something, because this topic kept brought back up again. This was back in like February when it was originally introduced of buying this over $1 million worth of equipment to grind stuff up.
Yeah.
And then through an Oprah request, it showed up that not only do we pay to grind it up, this other company, we pay to have it hauled away. So that led to other questions. But then in looking at it in finer detail, they only provided estimates for the hauling it away part, never actual invoices for it, where the grinding of it was always, it was turned into a purchase order, and then the purchase order turned into an invoice, and then it was paid. And I got a bill list of, like, here's all the bills that were paid, but the other company never got paid, but they always had invoices. And then in detailing out the estimates, they were giving multiple, like within a 2-week span, they were giving like 5 different estimates. So how did that change? Why did it change 5 times the estimate? But that's all for the next 5 months or so of grinding or hauling away. But yet your answer to this question of why it's done this way is because it changes on a daily basis. Well, then why are they giving their quotes months in advance of the estimate. You know what I mean? Like, do they know what's going to show up there? No, it doesn't. Even, so the whole thing doesn't make sense. Something's off with that whole thing. But there's a lot of things off in this town.
Somebody's got it. Somebody's got to be like on the ground, right there, to see what's happening.
All right. So we go to what, the second public portion?
Oh
here?
man. So second public portion. Ray Palladoro comes up, and he's got a lot of questions, and we start off with his questions about the bank building that's now the Black Box Theater.
Again, Ray Palladoro from the Historic Village of Ariel.
What is with these?
The microphone is terrible tonight. It's
we introduced a budget of 0 increase, no surprise, on odd number years. My question regarding what you guys refer to as a black box, and some more grant money coming into that. I have to believe you have an answer to this question. The total amount of money spent on a building that formerly someone was paying property tax on, and that has ceased and desist since you guys have taken it over. With all the remediation and all the money that's gotten put into it, do you have a total to date, not including the $1 million in quarterly installments that'll be going to it? How much money's gone into that building so far?
Mr. Polidoro, you had questions regarding the black box, the total amount that we spent. I don't have that on me, Mr. Polidoro. And Mr. Carter, you don't have that on you.
I do not.
But we can provide that to you. We have your email, Mr. Polidoro. As far as the expected date of completion, I believe it is the fall of 2025.
I believe it is August.
Okay.
It's convenient, too.
I think we're almost at what?
I thought it was over $3 million or so.
I'm thinking. I was just going to say, if we're adding almost another $200,000 to it, we $3.4 million.
But how do you and I how are we able to like have a ballpark figure? He didn't ask for an exact number. And that's because they don't have it down to the penny, I'm not going to answer your question.
I did zero research before this because it's just, I don't know, it's just one of those things that
sticks in your head. It's not their job to know these things, but somehow we know them.
It's a building that we got for a steal basically, and now it's cost us $3.2 million. Is
it really a steal at that point?
I mean, what do we got? We got 60,000 taxpayers in this town. $3.4 million divided up. It's still much. It's still more money than I would have spent for the damn thing. So,
well, all right, here we go to clip 8.
Number 2, in the very end, that building is not going to be producing any revenue, and for the art district that's been advertised for quite some time, we really haven't seen a whole lot more going on with that, at least what the sign says when you come off of 42 freeway at Blackwood Clemington Road. And what is your expectant date where it starts looking like an art district and not the money spent on a Picasso painting?
What?
Yeah, so they said. So the answer was, I thought I clipped it in there. The answer was that it's got it like a around an August completion date. This building, and really all of the arts district is what they call the term that they call it is throwing good money after bad, and it's basically it's like. And it reminds me of a lot of things that I will do, just out of ego, right? When I'm doing something wrong, and my wife says I don't think that's right, but I continue to do it because I've got the ego, and I'm like, I'm not telling her that she's right in this, so I'm just gonna continue down this wrong path, and I'm gonna fail miserably in hopes that there's a little spark that I might actually get it and be like, told you so. But I know deep in the back of my mind that I'm going to fail.
That she's right, yeah.
That's it. Like this is the arts district, and this is the Black Box Theater. It's just the arts district is not happening, right? It's Rite Aid was just taken over now with a gym. There's no.
Well, at least there's something going in there.
Hopefully they have paintings on the walls or something like that. Maybe you can do some singing while you're working out.
Well,
so it's
to be fair, the town isn't really responsible for creating the arts. They're just supposed to foster an environment that would thrive. You know what I mean? But what are we doing to do that? We already we're putting a black box theater next to another theater. Like, you know what I mean? It's like two buildings down, 3 buildings down? There's already something along those lines there.
Give up on the arts
district.
district.
Is it better than that building sitting there empty? Absolutely. But at the cost of, over $3 million and not done yet? I don't know. That was that thing. I mean, we've talked before. Like, there's a million ideas around that, and it isn't really government's role to gentrify that entire place. But they couldn't foster the gentrification of it.
There's 3 banks in the area that I can think of that are now repurposed to something else that is profitable for every town. And I'm like, why can't we do the same thing? Yeah. Why can't we do the same thing? Look, the arts district, I love the idea of an arts district, like a New Hope or something like that, where you go, you get out and walk. But it's not going to happen here. What I would trade that for is just a business district. Just anywhere you can go where you can park, and there's a couple different shops you can hit. It doesn't need to be arts. It could be a gym.
That's what was decided on at some point through the plans that we have, and that's, I guess, what they're going with. So, I mean, there's not really much you can do about it.
The presentation that we got years ago with like the brewery and stuff like that, that's fantastic, man. I love that. I love everything about that idea, but it's not happening. So, let's not force it to happen. Let's let it happen organically, to where if somebody wants to come in with a brewery, we give them the best possible deal we could give anybody to come in here, because we know that's the direction that we're thinking about going in. So we offer incentives. There's breweries opening constantly.
Well, I did hear one of the things that is, I guess, up the road a little bit. They're in talks with one of the buildings in downtown to, I guess, buy that to turn it into a parking lot. And I think I got that information from like somebody that was at a workshop meeting that they were talking about that. I don't know what building it is. I don't think they talked about it because they didn't want it to ruin the deal. But that is one of the things that downtown does need, and that is one of the roles that government could play. Is like say, hey, we know that in order for this to work, we need parking.
Yeah,
people need to be able to park somewhere. So. That's a good function of, I think of that. Putting in the theater when we already have a theater there, to me, is just a bad idea. That's just my opinion of it. I don't know. All right, where are we at with this here?
Ray wants to know if we can put the MUA back together.
This is, here we go.
I've asked this before, and I'll ask it again. What's to prevent this body from putting the MUA back together again? They proved that they could run a very efficient budget. They showed that they were not going to raise our rates. They showed that they could put money away for an emergency. You guys procured that. You took $6 million of the money that they put away, spent half of it, borrowed against repairs that was saved for, and all the while never answered the question how much money you were going to save.
In regards to your comments about what's to prevent the body from putting the MUA back together, the MUA is the sewer utility, Mr. Polidoro. You've said it again. You've asked this question many times, and I've responded the same way many times to you in the same manner. It is a sewer utility. Everyone's sewer.
He didn't ask what it was.
$45 a quarter. Okay, they're paying it. The sewer is flowing. Okay, the money that you said that was taken by this township was sent back to its residents. That $6 million was sitting in a pot that no one was utilizing. So that has been returned to our residents.
$6 million is set aside for sewer maintenance and repairs.
For the stuff that we're borrowing for right now. And look, to be clear, it was not sent back to the residents. It was spent any way they could spend it and also to not raise taxes.
Right, yeah.
So it was never sent back to the residents. It was spent, and they said, look what we gave you.
The answer I believe Ray is going for there, or the point I think he's trying to make, is that if it were a utility, or if it were an authority again, they couldn't sell it. As a utility, as in the current state, they can sell it, which was basically the start of this whole thing. When they dissolved the MUA to turn it into a utility, that's when they're able to
also
sell
they would maintain their own budget too.
Right. So now they have control over that versus allowing another board that they might oversee, might have some persuasion in, but don't actually.
So now you're
now
$45 a quarter. Now basically just goes
managed by the same people who
goes into
$80 million
the same
debt.
fund that everything else goes into. Now it's just another form of your taxes, basically.
Right. All right. So he also made a comment. I don't know if you need to play the clip, but he also didn't like that you can't have anonymity with the E-Gov.
He was basically saying the same thing that we can. Like, who are you to judge what if an email comes in, if it's legitimate enough for
Should
you?
we play a clip or what?
Nah, you don't have to play it.
All right. I'm trying to cut down time a little here. All right. So we go into there was almost somebody got a ride back in a cop car here. We can play this one.
Oh.
I say this because I brought this up previously, and I will bring it up again. I'm still having complications with my identity. Oh, one moment.
Watch. Yikes.
Did you see that?
Ma'am, step away
No,
from
wait,
me.
wait.
No, I'm not, ma'am, step away from me.
My name
Move
is
back.
Shaughnessy.
Yeah, I don't care. Move back and move away from me. Don't step up to me. Stay over here and you can address counsel.
Is that
Ma'am,
Sean?
ma'am,
My name is Shaughnessy Smith.
ma'am.
Do you see this? Do you
Ma'am.
see where that is written incorrectly?
Yeah, you can address counsel here.
So uncomfortable.
All right. Well, I guess my question would be, are his cameras required to be on? Because I brought up this identity theft.
It is not required to be on.
His cameras are not required to be on unless he is on a call. So, that's I'm
not going to comment on it.
Well, this is one of the reasons why we have this broken system now, where there's no questions and answers. This was part of it. This was they used this as part of their excuse to limit public participation and back and forth, because there are some folks that come in and they need. I don't know. They're just looking for feedback from somebody for something. Whether or not it's actually good for the township or not.
Governmental, as they like to put it.
All
right. Well, let's go to another governmental person here that asks questions. Mr. Burns. He starts off by, let's see.
Good evening, Council.
Good evening.
Brian Burns, Salwood Drive in Ariel. This is not a question, but I do want to make a comment. And my first comment is I want to say thank you to Councilman Nash for having the courage at the last council meeting to suggest that this protocol, where we can no longer have a dialogue back and forth, should be re-examined.
I believe there's a hero in all of us.
I couldn't agree with you more. To me, you other folks, you don't have to fall in line, and you don't have to drink the Kool-Aid. That flag there is the American flag. It gives us rights for free speech. And yes, we are free to come up and say whatever we want. But when you stifle people and you no longer had the dialogue back and forth, that to me is un-American. So let me repeat. You do not have to fall in line, and you do not have to drink the Kool-Aid. Somebody mentioned it's a mayoral election year. And this protocol does not reflect well on the mayor. And I beseech you, talk behind closed doors. Pass a resolution that makes dialogue free, like America is free. I know in your hearts you have to know that this is right. You don't have to fall in line, and you don't have to drink the Kool-Aid. Stand up like Mr. Nash stood up and said, I don't agree with this. Let's re-examine this. This is a community. And Mr. Mercado, in all due respect, I don't care if other communities do it the way it's done now. I don't live in other communities.
That's right.
I live here.
Free speech is expressed here, Mr. Burns. No one is prohibiting any speech. In fact, there are more people that have an opportunity to speak because there isn't cross dialogue and back and forth and name calling that's taking place. So I disagree with your comments. I respect your comments, but I disagree with it.
Sure, free speech is not being shut down here.
No.
But their accountability is. They don't have to answer a damn thing you ask them. They can come back with some half-assed comments after everybody is pushed back in their seats and they're not allowed to speak again. They come up and give you whatever comments they want, answers, whatever.
The next step beyond where we're at right now is they just won't even respond to them. They're just going to allow you to talk, and they won't even respond because they are proving that they're going to do the bare minimum that they legally have to do. There's nothing legal that says that you can't respond to people or that you know what I mean? But it does say that there has to be a public portion of the meeting where the public is free to speak because you work for us. You're spending our money. We have the right to discuss lights at Blackwood Kiwanis Park before you go spend the money. These kind of things are, legally done, but it's also in the absolute bare minimum, that they do, that they try to get away with, and that's the next step is not even responding to those, comments there. So he's right, in my opinion, that it's not a good look.
Great point. Great point by Brian Burns.
He also brings up another clip here, which we had a lot of dialogue about this next one, right?
Yeah.
A resolution that a sewer system can be examined in the Hickstown Road area. You folks got the information multiple times, but I do have a question with regard to the re-examination plan, master plan re-examination, page 59, which identifies those same blocks and recommends it become a redevelopment area. So the council has the ability to make this a redevelopment area. This is part of your jurisdiction. So my question is, do you plan, as page 59 on the master plan re-examination suggests, making the Hickstown Road properties, which are an environmentally sensitive area, a redevelopment zone? And you have this paper. I've given it to you twice. I have it again if you need it again.
In regards to your question about the re-examination plan, I responded to you via email that particular parcel that we discussed, that was an application, a Form A application to have a possible sewer there. Okay, as counsel, and I stated as a workshop, and I deferred to the solicitor when I said it, we cannot comment on that because there is a possible application that may go forth in front of the planning board. So as a council, we're not going to comment on that. I don't want to put us in legal jeopardy. Mr. Carmer, is there anything you want to add to that?
No, that's correct. You don't want to kind of send any message as the governing body to a planning or zoning board as to what your thoughts are on an issue going before them.
All right, so he's wrong in that scenario, and I have a prepared response to that to read.
Okay.
So that I guess it makes sense and not. I always don't get my thoughts together. You don't know, you know what I mean? Like we're just winging it kind of thing. But this is like a prepared response to that here.
Yeah.
Because that a Form A application is just for a sewer. Putting a sewer in. That's what Mr. Burns is talking about. The other part he's talking about is here. Let me just read the statement here. So. Orlando stated that council cannot comment on a potential project because doing so might affect the planning board process. However, that position does not apply from a Form A applications. These applications are not site plan approvals. They are infrastructure decisions. The fact that Form A applications come before council for a vote suggests that council has both the authority and the responsibility to review and decide whether extending sewer service to is appropriate, especially when the property is environmentally sensitive or subject to recommended zoning changes. By approving the Form A for this project, council enabled a development process to proceed. If the applicant now submits a plan that conforms to current zoning and technical requirements, the planning board will be obligated to approve it. At that stage, the board cannot deny the application solely based on community concerns or environmental considerations, even though those concerns are valid. That is why the Master Plan Re-examination Report adopted in June 2024 is so important that Mr. Burns is discussing here. The report clearly recommends that the properties in question be reconsidered for rezoning and be addressed through a formal redevelopment plan due to their proximity to residential uses and recognized environmental value. These parcels are also identified by the NJDEP as part of a natural heritage site. Gloucester Township is entirely designated as an area in need of rehabilitation. Under New Jersey law, this designation allows the council to initiate a redevelopment plan without findings of blight. Therefore, council has both the legal authority and planning rationale to take action to protect this land before approving the sewer extension. To date, that opportunity has not been acted on. It is misleading to suggest that council has no role or is prevented from weighing in. The time to act is before a formal site plan is filed, when council can shape the direction of development through zoning, redevelopment, or infrastructure decisions. By not acting on the recommendations in the master plan, it allows this project to move forward by default. Why did they spend taxpayer dollars on a master plan re-examination report if they're not going to follow the report's recommendations? That's pretty clear, I think, right?
Yeah.
That was clearer than if we were just talking about it.
We redid a master plan, which defines
we paid to have it redone.
All of the areas in Gloucester Township and what the plan for those are, and the zoning for all of them.
And now it said that this is an environmentally sensitive property, and now you're going to not. Well, go ahead.
So if it's if it's labeled that, then that's what it is, because that's the plan. It's not like the plan was done in the 80s. It was done last year.
Right. Not even a year ago.
Not even a year ago. And now all of a sudden we're going to rezone it now so we can put a sewer in?
Why did we pay for that then?
Yeah. So we either wasted money on this plan or...
It wouldn't be the first time.
Yeah.
But it's basically, if that gets approved with that Form A application, you're now setting it in motion that it's going to happen.
Yeah.
People talk all the time about when do they stop building? This is the kind of thing that they have every opportunity to. However, when they're questioned about it, they throw their head, no, we have nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
And that's a
good point too.
Loss.
Because there are a lot of times when people talk about the overdevelopment, and there are times when there is nothing they can do because it is zoned a particular way, and if they want to put apartments or a warehouse on that property, they can.
Right.
This is one of those opportunities where they don't have to.
Right.
So.
But, it comes down to, who owns the property, who's looking for this, who's the realtor to sell it to someone else, or who wants to do what with it. Those things factor in more than what their actual responsibility is. And in this case, if that's something that they want to push through, they're going to give you an answer to say, that's not right for us to do that. We don't want to get sued. When in reality, the right thing to do for the people, according to the master plan that we all paid for to have done, is to do exactly what you're saying you're not allowed to do.
Next up,
all right.
Ira Eckstein.
He has his questions about the lights. Let's play the lights clip.
I got a question about Resolution 2504-110. It's about $1 million. It's a little over $1 million for lights in the township. Athletic locations. 593,385 I thought was part of the capital budget. But this other 400 and some odd thousand, no, closer to 500,000, doesn't appear to be in the capital budget. What's going on?
Mr. Eckstein, on your regarding Resolution 1110, when you saw the comments about Blackwood Kiwanis, there was additional money left over from a capital budget. Blackwood Kiwanis had met with the administration and discussed about having their lights, having another light added to their minor league field and to update their lights to LED on the the major league field. So that's where that money came from.
Again, somehow the government has extra money.
Extra money, even though
zero money, but
even though we're borrowing again this year. We have extra money.
Yeah.
So that's any household, that's just bad budgeting.
So RVs became a hot topic in town. I guess there was code enforcement was going out issuing citations or something.
Must have hit a lot of people with some citations.
Yeah, but let's get into this one.
Hugh Giordano, 57 Argyle Ave. Good evening. President Mercado, I wanted to come up and personally say thank you for listening to the residents of Gloucester Township in regards to RVs, boats, and other well-maintained recreational vehicles. As you know, many of the folks that live in the township are working class, and an RV or a boat is the way that they spend time with their family, the way they enjoy their retirement, and it was an hindrance when we all received violations from being able to enjoy that. It costs thousands of dollars to update your house. Some folks don't have the backyard or the other methods of storing a boat or an RV that is properly stored. Many of the folks that I had spoken to have nice RVs and nice boats and enjoy that with their family. I wanted to personally thank you for reaching out, for understanding the issue that's in front of us. I know there are other folks here that have attended the meeting for just this issue. And I want to say thank you for supporting the working class and coming up for a resolution so that folks can have a well-maintained, not being used in their driveway vehicle here in Gloucester Township. Thank you.
So I had a conversation with Mr. Giordano last week regarding this matter, and I had suggested that at our May workshop, and he gave me a little bit of background about, just as Mr. Kraft talked about his camper and how he maintains it. Mr. Brooks said, you maintain yours. And Mr. Giordano, when he brought his comments, Mr. Chrisley, how you maintain yours. Not everyone maintains it like you guys do. So at our May workshop, I suggested that we take a look at the ordinance. We'll have the Director of Community Development, our solicitor here, counsel, and take a look at the ordinance and maybe see where we can tweak it, where we're not going to have individuals and residents incur a substantial cost or any cost to keep their trailer or camper or boat on their property. So that discussion will take place at our May workshop, which is, I believe, May 12th, yes. Correct? Yes. Okay, so that'll be advertised for that. So, but thank you very much for your comments, Steph.
So yeah, I know that those guys that showed up, or those people, I don't remember. Well, I know that they were like elated that they were going to have a workshop meeting and
they get a workshop,
be able to talk about it.
Nobody else gets a workshop.
What's that?
How come they get a workshop and nobody else gets a workshop?
Well, that was one of the things that someone else that was there said. I wasn't at the meeting, but they said, in the hallway afterwards, they were like, "Oh, that Mercado's such a great guy. He's gonna have a workshop meeting." And they're like, "Well, I'm glad you guys got a workshop meeting because I've been asking questions for 7 years and they won't answer even simple questions, and now you get a workshop over it." So everybody has their own things there, but I think it is a topic that does need to be discussed. I'm just curious how the workshop's going to work, because the way workshops work typically are you get to go up and say something and then they discuss everything after. Like you can't you know what I mean? It's not a back and forth dialogue. It's just like the council meeting. So I don't know what this workshopping is going to accomplish with them, but hopefully they get some resolution out of it. It's a topic that's there are people who abuse it, and there are people that have nice things, and it's like, okay, well, you might. It's a very subjective.
Yeah,
when you say
another guy showed up. Another guy showed up to talk about, and so I just looked for some campers and some properties, and this guy had some stuff to say here too, and we'll take this clip here.
Which one are we at here?
A couple things from we're required.
My camper's in my 40-foot by 20-foot wide driveway, very well kept. Like I told John, if everybody was like me and had to take the fence down completely, I'm going to leave it down. So I'm going to have my nice rancher, has been well kept ever since I lived there. I'm going to have a half a fence on one side because of you guys. It's really not going to make the real neighborhood look so fantastic.
So you saw the little image in there, and it's the thought that I had. Now this is not a thing in Gloucester Township. This is a thing everywhere. This is a thing when I lived 3 hours from here. This was a thing that was in my neighborhood, was in my friend's neighborhood. I know he got ticketed for having a boat past the front of his house where they had to be behind your house. This is a thing that's everywhere. It's an ordinance that most townships have, that you can't have these recreational vehicles or boats parked in your driveway. They want it behind the house, and it basically it helps with the aesthetic of your street. Think about the image that I showed you there with the RV in the driveway. It's a nice looking RV. It's well kept, but if their neighbor now looks out their door to down the street, that's their only view is his RV.
Right, and I think you're going into the explanation of what I know, like my belief. I don't care what you do. If you want to go do whatever it is, as long as it doesn't affect me, I'm fine. Same thing. Like, you're allowed to have an RV. I don't care if you have an RV. But
Absolutely.
if your RV now is blocking what I should be able to see in my street, you're not allowed to put a fence up in your front yard to block your neighbor's thing. So why are you allowed to have a massive, thing there? So it's a really strange area. Like, everybody has their own rights, but your rights can't be infringing on somebody else's.
I know.
It's a really strange, weird.
I'm such a big believer of the government not telling me what to do. But then again, like we talked about this in the past, but other things, there's just like this unspoken like social contract when you move into a development that says, I'm not going to mess anything up for anybody else.
Right.
And sure, maybe your next door neighbor and you are your buddies, and he doesn't mind the RV there. But when the rest of the people look down the street and that's all they see and they can't see down the end of the street, like, it's great. I can walk out my front door now, and I am probably the 10th house up the street from the end of the road. I see all the way down to the end of the street. If I'm waiting for somebody or waiting for delivery and they always go to the wrong house, I can see down the street. Mm-hmm. If my neighbor parked an RV there, I can't see anything down the street.
Right.
And then I'm boxed into my little street, right? I'm on a court, so like I got dead end down here and an RV over here, and I don't know. It's so much more open when I can look all the way down the street. It's so nice. And
But if you got a bug one day to go get an RV and you park it in your neighborhood, you're going to worry about you. Everyone's like the main character on earth when it comes to.
So here's the thing. Like, I'm a big car guy. I've got my play car in my garage, and in my everyday truck in my driveway. Mm. I would love nothing else than to have a classic car that I could work on, but I don't have any room for it. That's the only thing that stopped me from buying it. I don't have anywhere to work on. I can't put it in my driveway. Like a good example is the guy across the street from me, right? He's got an old F350 diesel, awesome truck. He's been out there working on it, right? But he's limited to what he can do. He's afraid to take the fenders off and do some work on it because he's afraid of what they're going to say, because he cares about the rest of the neighborhood, right? Yeah. He cares about the rest of the neighborhood.
Well, I don't know. These people don't care about like their neighbors that they have an RV, but they have their RV, and this topic we can go talk about for hours.
Yeah, it's like the barking. It's like the people with the barking dog, right? The moment my dog goes outside and barks, stop him, bring him in, because I care about what
you don't want to ruin the outside experience.
My impact on the neighborhood is what I care about.
Right.
So it's not something that I would do. I wouldn't buy an RV. I wouldn't buy an RV because I think camping sucks. But I wouldn't park anything in my driveway to mess the aesthetic of my neighborhood up.
Right. All right. Well, moving on, we had Denise Coyne reminds council that they are responsible for the budget.
Denise Coyne, Choose Landing.
Good evening.
Good evening. Under NJSA 40:69A-36 and a Faulkner Act, Mayor, Council, Government, all powers of the municipality and matters of policy rest with council, unless specifically delegated by law. This means that you are legally responsible for every salary in the budget and must ensure that taxpayer dollars are spent transparently. This statute gives council authority to approve the budget, establish or eliminate positions, and structure municipal departments. Salary levels, personnel lines, and appropriations fall under your control, not just the mayor's. At the last meeting, I raised concerns involving $382,000 in salaries paid to Gabriella Mascaro, Primo Cruz, and Mary Jo Gentina. Gabriella Mascaro is listed as the director of the sewer utility, but is regularly CC'd on administrative emails from the mayor's office. Her calendar only had a few entries related to sewer work. Is her salary paid from the sewer department or the mayor's office? Primo Cruz earns $170,000 split between the legal department and the mayor's office. His calendar was almost entirely redacted. Why do we need an assistant solicitor at that cost? Mary Jo Dentino is being paid $92,000 for a position capped at $81,000. The position appears new, it was not competitively posted, and no detailed job description has been provided. What department pays her salary? When I raised these concerns, the council president and the solicitor said they were outside your purview. Respectively, that's not accurate. NJSA 4069A-36 gives you the power to approve and reject these appropriations and demand supporting documents before voting on them. That includes job descriptions, hiring records, and emails. There's also legal precedent in Driscoll versus Burlington Bristol Bridge Company. The New Jersey Supreme Court held that the public officials can be held personally liable if they ignore or fail to act on fiscal concerns. The court ruled that blind approval in the face of public interest violations may carry consequences. So before the final budget hearing on May 12th, I ask you to scrutinize these salaries, request documentation, and share your findings with the public. You were elected to represent the people, not protect the administration. If you refuse to do your job, the public has every right and every tool to hold you accountable.
Unfortunately, that whole thing went right in one ear and right out the other for them.
Yeah, they did respond in the next clip, but I mean, basically what she's saying is, look, this stuff comes up every year with the municipal budget and the salaries that are involved here, and there's when stuff jumps out at you,
it is your oversight. That's why you have to vote on it. You're supposed just same thing like the rezoning and the master plan thing. It comes before you because there's supposed to be dialogue, and you could vote it down. If it didn't need to be voted, then why is it coming through to you? You know what I mean? And you do have the power.
Give it a good example. When a new job comes up and is appointed, and you say, all right, I don't know anything about that job. I'm going to look up and see what that job does, and you find out, all right, this person that just took over this job that never existed before in the township is making $11,000 more than the cap for that job. That's something I want to question. Then the next thing that comes up too is, all right, a person is now making $120,000. That's, I'm guessing, for the people that are watching here, probably not a lot of people make $120,000 that are watching the podcast. If you do, okay. But you're probably, if you are, you're probably working for it, right? You probably earned it. This person is getting paid $120,000 for a position that doesn't really appear that they are working in, based on the evidence of they're being copied on regular administrative stuff, like their
former job.
Their former job. So it's almost like they were given a promotion or put into a spot,
but still doing an old job, and now there's a new person that gets paid more than you used to get paid. It's a whole thing, you know.
Yeah. So I really,
there's questions. Who's asking them, and what are the answers?
Look, yeah.
Let's play them. Let's see. What do they answer back?
So a couple things from.
Oh no.
To file attorney.
Wrong. Sorry.
Where salary you cited a part of the statute. These individuals that you had addressed, those three individuals, as I stated at the last meeting, they serve at the pleasure of the mayor. They're appointed by the mayor. We approve a budget, we approve a salary ordinance, and they have to adhere within that salary ordinance. Why do we need an additional solicitor? There are many legal matters that come before this administration and the township. There are matters that sometimes Mr. Carter can't get to. If you take a look at our bill list, you see the amount that we spend on legal fees. There are OPA requests that our clerk is inundated with that have to go through legal review. Mr. Cruz adds another layer of legal expertise to the township. In regards to where his salary comes from, Mr. Cardis, he is chief of staff and also the assistant solicitor. Do you have?
I don't have the exact breakdown, so I'm not going to put anything out there.
Ms. Eric's still here? Okay. Miss Sarah, are you able to? Do you know off the top of your head?
No,
Where
of course not. No one knows.
Mr. Cruz's salary is it split between the mayor's office and assistant solicitor? And
I don't know the breakdown.
Okay.
Breakdown off the top of my head, but
We can provide that.
Okay. Ms. Dentino's,
Same, we could provide that.
you could provide that for me, and the wage for Ms. Mosquera is coming from the sewer utility.
That is correct.
Okay. Ms. Coyne, I can assure you, no one here on the dais is ignoring any fiscal concerns, but I do appreciate. Ms. Coyne,
Why did that
we're
not go
Sally-
back? All right.
I don't know.
That's weird. All right. Well, we had.
I get thrown off every time somebody says "in regards to."
In regards to?
Yeah.
Why?
It's in regard to.
Oh.
It drives me. It just
drives you insane.
Yeah, it just gets me.
All right. The clip that I started playing was the one guy wanted to know something about kids ruining our events here. This has been a hot topic for a little bit now, and the chief does a little bit of explaining here.
Oh yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Things from we're required to follow Attorney General's directives. Some changes that happened in 2020 have limited the prosecution in certain areas. Needs approval by a
Coughing
prosecutor
just me
and
nuts.
depends on the crime. So it's not as easy. Much of that is out of the purview of Township Council. It is statewide juvenile justice reform, juvenile diversion initiatives that we're complied, that have passed the state legislature, and we follow Attorney General directives that direct us how much they can. But I can assure you that it's not just to let you know how the council. It's not on the council to. They don't have a whole lot of authority. We can pass local ordinances, but even our municipal judge is limited on his enforceability. A lot of that is handled with the family court, state family court, as far as it goes. It can be frustrating for us as well as I share your frustrations in many ways. However, that is the way it goes, and it's not necessarily the responsibility on council.
Yeah, this is a gentleman spoke.
What was
up.
the exact question the guy asked? Because
So a gentleman got up and spoke about campers, but then also said that he brought up GT Day. He brought up GT Day being canceled, and he said that he gave the example of look, the police and everything else, the government didn't scare me when I was young. My parents scared me.
Yeah.
And until you start making the parents responsible for these type of things, nothing's going to change. So he's saying, if something happens, why don't you fine the parents like $5,000 for if somebody comes to your town and starts a riot? Fine those parents, he said, like $5,000. That'll put the fear into the parents, which then put the fear into the children. And
well, I think that's part of what the that new legislation that the LD4 people were putting together was making parents responsible for it too.
It did, and they were right in that aspect, I thought. Well, you gave some good points about why that would be unfair, to some parents.
Right.
But
there's it's really unfortunate of how it all works. Like you can't account for every single situation, every scenario, all that kind of stuff. But the bill has not been signed into law yet. It's still sitting on the governor's desk. I don't know what's going to come of that, but I know that there's definitely some civil rights concerns around that of violating people's rights of the new legislation. But that did take into effect bringing other parents into the equation, which is what this guy's point is here. And a lot of times all these bills, there's a lot of stuff in it, and one thing can hold up somebody from voting on it because they don't. You know what I mean? It's just like with the spending bills. They pack all this stuff in.
Yeah.
And they, you get all these extras that you don't actually need in there, and it doesn't actually pass.
the whole GT Day thing bothers me, and it's like I don't know where to direct it, because on one hand I feel like our response to it was very weak, but at the same time, like the chief said, they're very limited to what they can do to these individuals. If
They're minors. You know,
they wrap them all up. And my thought was, look, they're going all over the state, down to Wildwood, to other places, church carnivals, and they're disrupting, they're starting fights everywhere they possibly can. At some point, my thought is, all right, let's handle it. Let's arrest them all. Let's punish them so that this stops happening. But basically what the chief is saying here, too, is...
that's the way, but... I know what you're trying to say, but yeah, we don't have to battle over this one again.
What do you do to them, though?
I don't have the answer. I don't know what you do with them. But
yeah, but
you can't just
for me,
blanketly arrest every single kid that that's there. There's probably innocent by there's
GT
what do you do?
GT Day 2023 and GT Day 2024. It was 100% obvious to the point where we left. I was in one. I was in one of the tents. I was in one of the tents with the candidates both years, and we left at 6:00 because the basketball courts started filling up with kids wearing masks.
Okay, so let's get to the point. Let's fast forward to the point where they arrest every kid. Now it goes into the legal system, or into the judicial system, right? Are they actually going to prosecute these kids? It's a complete waste of time for the police to go arrest them, put them into the system if they're just going to be let off anyway.
That's what I'm saying.
Nothing that's there for them. So the police are like, "What? Why are we even going to bother?"
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm not putting the whole blame here on Gloucester Township. I'm saying that it's this state problem that we have.
Yeah.
To where we put in and I hate to get partisan about this, but I mean it's a Democrat thing to do reform on the criminal justice system to where we're more lenient. It is. No, it's definitely we're more lenient now on people that break the law, and there's not enough consequences so that they don't do it again. So you've got police departments like Gloucester Township, and the chief is he seemed angry in his press conference, but I get it now that I understand that there's not a whole lot he can do about it.
Right, your hands are tied on it. They're going to be in trouble for
my first
acting, to trying to address the problem if they injure a kid. Just say now their entire pension could be gone because they get in trouble for hurting a kid that's going. Yeah, I understand that, and this happens. We've heard this, our entire lives of this scenario where somebody broke into the house and the person whose house got broken into shot them, but now they're up for murder for killing the person who, the whole
it's crazy, but that's the state that we live in.
Yeah, that is the state.
In other states, that's not even a question. You break into somebody's house, you get shot, you're done.
Yeah, well, they have
in
different.
New Jersey,
they call them
it's
your domain.
That's castle doctrine in other states.
Doctrine,
yeah. But for that example there, like in New Jersey, it's crazy that you have to retreat from your own house if something like that were to happen. New Jersey's messed up, man, when it comes to stuff like that, and that's what I'm saying.
But it's not the chief's fault. It's not.
No, it's not the chief's fault.
It's not the mayor's fault.
It's not the chief's fault.
It's not anybody's fault.
It's
that's
not
how the state's rules are.
But now here we are with it without a celebration. And look, as much as we talk about different things we don't like in the township, GTA I think is a great thing.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot
it's
of
great
thing.
It's a fantastic cause. Scholarship money. It's a great day out.
You know what? We should put a link to there is a way. The whole GT Day is to raise money for a scholarship thing, right? They provided a link that people could donate to that. So if you enjoy going to GT Day, you should still donate some money to the scholarship committee. We can put a link down in the description. You guys go there and donate a couple bucks. If you're going to go spend $20 on tickets for your kids thing, still donate something. I don't know if you can.
Absolutely.
I think you should try to help support them. It's not their fault that this day was canceled. I think it's it's unfortunate, but we can still support the scholarship committee to help all those kids.
We can keep an eye out on our Facebook page, and we'll share that out. And if you haven't actually figured out what our Facebook page was, now's probably a good time Check out our website. It's gtobserver.com. It's facebook.com/gtobserver for our Facebook page. We're on YouTube at Gloucester or at Restore GLOTWP. We're on Twitter at Restore GLOTWP also. Yeah.
All right. So we had one last clip. Let's play this and get out of here. What did you? Here we go.
Up in the woods in a camper. There's nothing like it. It's a great, you get that smell of the fresh air. It's just really wonderful. So I understand the people with campers. I understand why you love them.
Man, it is way too early for us to be up. The birds are surprisingly loud.
I didn't sleep at all.
Let's all get the out of here.
If you've ever woken up in the woods in a camper, there's nothing like it. It's a great...
That was great.
I hate camping. So this whole thing about camping just...
you won't find me camping.
I always...
It's one of those things that I love the idea of it, but I just can't do it. You know?
I've got friends on different levels of it that are like... I got friends that are like... They're like the tent sleeping bag kind. And I'm like, wow, I've never had
the desire to get in the
I've always, I've always thought how awful it would be to be homeless. I've never wanted to try it. You know what I mean? So, and then again, I've got other friends that are like, they got nice houses, and they're just like, I'm gonna go drive to a trailer park in the woods and build a fire and hang out and drink cheap beer with my friends. I loved, and it's a lot of my Jersey friends. So when I lived way out in like Pennsylvania, like I've lived out in it's beautiful out there. Go out in my backyard, beautiful sky, no trees, and it's just absolutely 100% quiet. And all my Jersey friends are like, oh, you go out in the woods, man, it's great, it's quiet. And I was like, I go out in my backyard, I enjoy all the same things that you guys do. And at the end of the night,
I go in my bed.
I go inside, take a shower, sleep in my own bed. I wake up in the morning. And I can do it all the next day. Completely showered, fresh.
Yeah.
I didn't have to go to the bathroom in a hole. It was just great. It's amazing. I loved it. And even the people with the RVs, like the RV is just, I don't know. It's like, I'm going to take my temporary home. I'm going to drive it into a parking spot in the woods. And then I'm going to...
People love it. She said you wake up with the fresh air and all that. That's a getaway. They don't live where you live.
People spend $60,000 on an RV. I'm thinking like,
so what? They're looking at you and say you spend $60,000 on a car.
Give me $60,000, right? I want to put a pool in the backyard. We're gonna hang out. We're gonna do the same thing that you're gonna do in the woods in the middle of nowhere, but you're gonna do it in my backyard. And you know what?
Let them be them, and you be you. That's it.
Don't
worry about what they're doing.
When this is all over, we could go in. I got beds for everybody in the house. There's beer on tap.
All right. Good night, folks.
Folks, subscribe if you haven't already, and share us out so we get some more
later.
subscribers. See you, folks.